Northwestern, after a long while and a long waiting period, finally has their defensive coordinator. And I think it's somebody that Northwestern fans can get very excited about. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Northwestern, your daily podcast on the Northwestern Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome. This is Locked On Northwestern, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I'm your host, Carter Bird, and thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen every day. We really appreciate it. We're available wherever you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you can find us. We're also on YouTube. Just search Locked On Northwestern. You can find us there. Wherever you're listening, make sure you're subscribed and you turn on notifications. You don't want to miss an episode as we continue to pump out content each week. Obviously, haven't covered it yet on the show, but Northwestern and Iowa, that basketball game for Wednesday night ended up not happening. Obviously postponed due to a COVID outbreak on the Northwestern team, or that's the word right now. Real bummer. Had my phone and computer on Do Not Disturb and recorded the whole episode, posted it, and after I posted it, it was announced that the game was not even happening. So that was a little bit of a bummer. We will talk about that here later. But today's show, we are going to talk about the long-awaited news that was started to bubble up last week, but went official here in the past couple of days. Northwestern has its new defensive coordinator, and that is David Braun of North Dakota State. Somebody that I think Northwestern fans should and very well can be excited about. Fitz said, we are thrilled to officially welcome David, Kristen, Lucas, and Andrew to our football family. His record on the field speaks for itself during a decorated leadership tenure with one of the most successful programs in college football. The innovative ways he thinks about defense and his passion for creating relationships with players immediately stood out during a comprehensive search process. His enthusiasm for the game is obvious and infectious. And we are already beginning to see the impact he's having on our student athletes and staff. So, look, this is a guy who is fairly young, I think, for a defensive coordinator, a guy who he started his coaching career in 2008 as a grad assistant at Winona State. Stayed there as a GA again in 2009. Then he moved to Culver Stockton, where he was a defensive coordinator and linebackers coach there in 2010 before returning to Winona State in 2011 to be the co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. He was there from 2011 to 2014 before he moved to UC Davis in 2015 to be the defensive line coach. Was there for a couple of years through the 2016 season. And then he ended up at Northern Iowa as the run game coordinator and defensive line coach in 2017. His role slightly changed in 2018 as he became the special teams coordinator and outside linebackers coach. Then in 2019, he makes it to North Dakota State, which is where he obviously was before coming to Northwestern, where he was the defensive coordinator and safeties coach for 4 seasons there. He's a young guy who's had a lot of success. I think there's a lot to be encouraged about. A guy who, at a program that one can make the argument has had more of a winning tradition here over the last decade plus than Alabama. North Dakota State at the FCS level gets some a young, fresh, exciting mind in the defensive meeting room, scheming up X's and O's. It's definitely something that I think this Northwestern defense needs. We can talk more about that here in a little bit, but I think that after it was kind of quiet for a little while there. You got rid of Jim O'Neill, the last defensive coordinator, after the defense kind of strayed away from where it had been in the past. This is a hire that excites me. I think that he can do a lot of good at Northwestern. I'm very excited about it. And we're going to talk about some more reasons why Northwestern fans should be excited about this in just a second. But first, let's talk about our friends at Bet Online. Bet Online is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college basketball to NBA and really anything else. We've got it all at Bet Online. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at Bet Online as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet Online, where the game starts. Also, thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen today. And really every day. Make sure you check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball Next. Everything you need to know about college basketball in one place, plus hear from big name experts, insiders, and coaches and players. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All right. Some reasons to, I guess, get excited about David Braun coming into Northwestern, coming into this defensive side of the ball. Look at it. He was there at North Dakota State as the defensive coordinator for 4 seasons. In those 4 seasons, the defense was pretty stout. Allowed just 15.3 points per game over those 4 seasons, 292.2 yards per game, 4.7 yards per play, 166.4 passing yards per game, and then 125.8 rushing yards per game. In 2019, he had the number one scoring defense in the FCS. The Bison allowed just 12.3 points per game on the year, and that helped kind of power them to a 16-0 season, winning the Missouri Valley Football Conference title. And they went on to run through the FCS postseason and win an FCS national championship, something that North Dakota State has become very accustomed to over the years. 2 years later, in 2021, Braun was named Football Scoop's FCS Coordinator of the Year, as he had the number one scoring defense yet again, allowing just 11.1 points per game and winning another Missouri Valley Football Conference title, running through the FCS postseason one more time for another FCS national championship. That year, the defense allowed 264.7 yards per game. That was good for third in the entire FCS. They allowed 26.8% of third down conversions, which is good for third in the FCS as well. 68% on the red zone defense, pretty stout. We've seen a lot higher numbers at Northwestern this past year and the year before that. That was good for fifth in the FCS. 87.6 rushing yards per game allowed, sixth in the FCS, and that means that they allowed 177.1 passing yards per game. I mean, look, even when the defenses, even when they weren't winning conference championships and national championships, they were a stout unit. You saw them this past year get all the way to the FCS national championship game, and it looks like they just kind of ran into a buzzsaw in South Dakota State, a South Dakota State team that felt just destined to finally beat North Dakota State in the postseason. And that's kind of how that one played out. Braun won the 2021 FCS Coordinator of the Year. I mean, look, he's somebody who has fielded a strong unit almost every single year out there. Really, every single year he's been a defensive coordinator. It's been impressive. North Dakota State is one of 2 FCS defenses to produce multiple draft picks, Montana State being the other, over those 4 seasons that David Braun was the defensive coordinator. Jabril Cox, a linebacker, it was a 4th-round pick by the Dallas Cowboys in 2021. And then Derek Tuska, so I think it's pronounced. That's the best I can do with it. Another linebacker was drafted the year before in 2020 in the 7th round. Braun was named to the 2020 class of the American Football Coaches Association's 35 under 30 Coaches Leadership Institute, which is a bit of a mouthful, but another great honor for him nonetheless. I mean, look, this really is, we are talking about a guy who played at Winona State, was a solid player there, led them to 3 conference titles and 3 Division II playoff appearances in his 40 years as a player. Got after it on the defensive line, 15 sacks, the 12th most in Winona State history. Team high 8 sacks in 2005. I mean, he played for current North Dakota State head coach Matt Ince there from 04 to 07. And, clearly Matt Ince saw something in him to to help him get started in his coaching career at Winona State as a GA, and then kind of work his way around to get back to North Dakota State to coach under Ince and have such a strong defense to set him up to now make the jump to the Power 5, to Northwestern, to the Big Ten West. I think it's exciting. And I think that you can reasonably expect there will be some sort of a step forward for Northwestern. I think that it'll be interesting to see how this unit changes here over the next couple years as Braun institutes his scheme and gets his kind of guys in on his defense. And we're going to talk about what really needs to improve really in just a second here. But first, let's talk about our friends from Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat, but don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year. If you're like me and you want to eat healthier, but don't want to compromise taste, then man, you've got to try Built Bar. I mean, it's just what you're looking for. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're delicious, and you won't even think, you won't think while you're eating it, man, is this good for me? You won't think that because it tastes like a candy bar, but it is good for you. It's perfect for your New Year's resolution. What makes them so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not really sure how Built does it, but these bars taste just like if you were going to go get like a Snickers or a candy bar out there, except they maintain amazing macros. And what's even better is that they are healthy, only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't have to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering Built bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, you can run in and grab yourself a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later because I promise you they're going to become your favorite snack, whether you're post-workout, I guess, on the go, need something to put in your body, or need that just kind of late night snack. Built Bar is definitely the way to go. Also, thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen today. For your second listen, check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Experts Isaac Shade and Andy Patton bring you everything you need to know on and off the court. Plus, hear from big name experts, coaches, and players throughout the college basketball landscape. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. All right. So we know Northwestern has a new defensive coordinator. We know that there have been issues the past couple seasons on the defensive side of the ball. I think that the front has struggled with depth, has struggled to stop the run at times. I think back to this past year, Iowa really kind of gashed them and got after them up front. And that was one of the few games where it was just like, there was not really a moment where you felt like Northwestern was competing on the defensive end, which is shocking because Iowa's offense was abysmal. But yeah, I mean, this defense, it lacked depth. It lacked quality depth. You had some guys you brought in the transfer portal, but not a lot of them were really impact contributors. I think you need to figure out a way to close the gap from a talent perspective, from a schematic perspective. There will be a talent gap here. As Northwestern gets the NIL collective up and running, it's going to take time. And so can David Braun, in the interim, figure out a way to have that talent gap not be as glaring? You think about the back end, a lot of injuries. When healthy, I thought it was a solid unit. Just too many injuries, and the depth got tested early and often. You do bring back some experienced players back there. I think that it'll be interesting to see if they can take a step forward. Linebacker is the area that I know that we've talked about the most on this show, because while it got some of your best production in terms of tackles and tackles for loss, honestly, Xander Mueller forced a decent amount of turnovers. There was a serious lack of speed and athleticism at the linebacker position. The linebackers at Northwestern fielded last year, I think they were really good at coming right at you, straight ahead, north and south, filling holes between the tackles, limiting how teams ran between the tackles. Where this defense struggled, and I think specifically that second level, is when a team had elite speed and could get on the edge, had difference makers on the edge. You would see moments where Northwestern's lack of speed on the defensive end would get exposed. And that is something that may not be able to be fixed in 2023. But what can you schematically do to have those moments be less glaring? I think back to Gallagher. There was a moment where he had a slot receiver in coverage and the guy just ran by him, and I hated it because it kind of was the encapsulating moment for this defense this year when they would get exposed. He's running his heart out, as hard as he possibly could, and he's still beat by 15 yards, and it's easy pitch and catch for a touchdown. I want to say it was fairly early in the season. You got to figure out a way, and you didn't leverage the transfer portal window as much as you would have liked, especially on the defensive end. I think you've got to hit it extremely hard. I think this spring is used for evaluating what's on the roster. And I think that May window, Northwestern may need to bring in a significant number of depth and just quality pieces to fill out that defense. Kind of after Braun gets a chance to evaluate the roster and how they fit in his scheme, I think that May portal period will be huge when it comes to him deciding, okay, I need my kind of guy at X position or Y position, and going out and filling out the defense that he needs in 2023. I think this defense can be better in 2023. I don't know how much better. I think 2024 is a logical, for me, place to see significant improvement on the defensive side of the ball for Northwestern. Those are just my thoughts on this hire so far. I'm sure we're going to talk about it more as time passes here, but that's going to do it for today's episode. Appreciate you tuning in. This has been Locked On Northwestern, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Northwestern your first listen every day. We're available wherever you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. We're also on YouTube. Just search Locked On Northwestern. You can find us there. Make sure you're subscribed and you turn on notifications. You don't want to miss an episode. I'm your host, Carter Bird. You can follow me on social media at CarterBird13, and I will see you all next time.